Winners and losers for patch 12.1 season 2. Hey guys, Petko here. Welcome for another video. Now that we have more information available to us on PTR and we have already tested so much and most of the dungeons have already been out, it is time to talk about how each spec is playing, not only from a rotation point of view but also output, the overall big changes, whether the tier set was good or not, etc. All of this is gonna come into consideration. And once again, whatever you see today, it is not gonna be a tier list, just a brief discussion with all of you, so you guys are more familiar how each spec is currently. And then once we get more testing done, the tier list should begin, maybe even next week. It all depends if they're gonna put the new dungeons available to us by Wednesday. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. Alright, I'm just gonna randomly start placing specs. I'm not gonna, start from the bottom of my top. First, I want to talk about my favorite spec to play so far on PTR. It has been Survival Hunter. I think Survival Hunter overall has seen its fair share of changes, but for the most part, you will be expecting to play similar, with a similar rotation flow as season 1. The only major difference coming to survival next season is that you're gonna be focused a lot more on the Raptor Strike and the Raptor Swipe. That's pretty much what the tier set pushes you for, and overall changes are leading towards you using those abilities quite extensively. Do keep in mind that most of the time when I play survival, I notice very nice frontal burst, good sustained damage. Energy issues still remain from time to time, although I was trying to play without flankers advantage, but if you do play with flankers, you might resolve those. Now, whether you play one-handed or two-handed, I don't know yet what's the best choice, but currently the minute and a half takedown build of Survival Hunter in a combination of the most overpowered trinket in this game for melees, which gives you a primary stat increase. It got nerfed, but it's still pretty good. Is what makes Survival great. Overall, I enjoy it. I don't think it looks to be broken so far, at least from a Turing POV, but I like the flow, I like where it goes, and I'm happy to play it myself as an alt. Alright, let me give you one really big curveball for the fun to play but poorly tuned, and it's gonna be, once again, you guys have probably guessed it, Windwalker Monk goes here. Oh my god. I mean, personally, once again, I'm a fan of Windwalker Monk, have been, especially the build that they're running right now. One major difference compared to last season is, at least right now, your spinning crane kick will account for higher percentage of your overall damage. It roughly accounted between 5 and 7%, and that's without playing talents that enhances its damage. I would assume if they buff spinning crane kick, you might end up playing those talents and prioritizing it a lot more than your standard no spin builds, because most of the time you only press spin when you get a free proc. Other than that, you don't. And I like the nice touch during Zenith. During Zenith, you're able to cast 2 stomps, which is quite good. My major concern here for the spec, I actually have 2 concerns. The first concern is that your mass AoE damage is actually quite poor. And when I talk about mass AoE, I talk about, like, let's say 10 plus targets. It most definitely is quite poor compared to most of the specs right now. And also sustained damage, not what I wanted. I really want to see slightly higher sustained damage. Even if that results in a nerf of Zenith, that's fine by me. But outside of those major cooldowns, you are doing piss poor damage. I don't like it. That is the first concern. The second concern is your defensive profile. I can't stress enough, but I'm gonna be honest with you. This is likely the squishiest spec in this game. If you guys haven't seen, they buffed at least major defensives. Arcane is no longer a squishy. Quite contrary, one of the tanky range specs right now. And Windwalker is the only spec left to be a glass cannon. A rot damage kills you. Anything as a dot pretty much gets your booty shaken. At least against physical damage and one-shots, you have a Fortifying Brew. Once again, I hope that to get the rest in the future, because I don't like the direction of the defensive value of the monks. Alright, let's talk about some of the, better performance out there. I'm gonna begin with Frost Decay. Dude, I don't know what they did to Frost Decay, but Frost Decay tier set is so good that it ended up being a large chunk of your overall damage, which I don't know if it's gonna get nerfed in the future, but the way Frost Decay is currently right now is considered the best melee spec into this game, or very close overall the best spec right now onto the PTR. One of the highest bursts, if not the highest burst in this game, and very strong single target too. The only issue with the Frost Decay right now, although the whole goal was to decrease damage during cooldowns, that's why they nerfed most of your major cooldowns. The goal was to increase sustained damage. What happened is your sustain is still kind of, not so great, but Damage during cooldowns remain to be very strong, which again, I don't have an issue with. I think for the most part, that hasn't really been, any negative feature from Feroz Decay. If you guys remember from the past seasons, Feroz Decay has always been a burst powerhouse, so that's gonna likely continue to be so in season 2. On top of this, now people gonna come and be like, oh, but Feroz Decay cannot be good because no utility. Sure, I speak a lot about utility. I speak a lot about, needing that in a party. I think Death Knight biggest utility is not grip and it's not AMZ, as you guys have, noticed. I think it's their defensive toolkit. Death Knight in general, Frost and Unholy are so incredibly bulky and tanky that, no other spec come close to them when it comes down to that. So healers love them and they prioritize them less when it comes down to healing. Also, AMS can cheese a shit ton of mechanics, so here they go. It's a big W for us, the case. All right, so the question mark here is pretty much meant for specs that I'm not 100% sure where they are standing right now. So I'm gonna first put the Retribution Paladin here. I think Red Paladin overall, leading to Season 2 of Midnight, overall changes not too bad. I think I like the direction of the spec. I'm a bit concerned about the tier set, although the design of it sounds pretty cool, but the implementation might be a little bit of a bummer, at least for most people right now. I don't want to speak about tuning as much currently. Not looking the best, not looking the worst. I would say somewhere it's put in the middle, but I enjoy the fact that your tier set provides you a nice touch of prior target damage while doing the AoE. I've tried Hero build, I've tried Templar. I've always been more fan of playing a Templar build than Herald. Once again, I just need more time playing this spec because I do confess it takes me a while until I find that I've built some PTR. So I did test a lot of bullshit builds, which were pretty bad. And obviously, I did forget halfway through the testing that, oops, I don't have a automatic wings. I gotta manually bind them. So my damage was horrible for the first couple of dungeons. But now, starting to get better. As soon as I have more information, likely next week, I'll let you guys know. But so far, for first impressions of Red Paladin, not too bad. Okay, it's now starting to crank the better ones. I'm gonna talk about Feral Druid. I think for the most part, Feral Druid likely surprised me the most, honestly. Even though it plays mostly the same, you do have a different talent choice right now. Your tier set kinda forces you or pretty much introduces you to a different build on live servers. I've tried the Convoke builds, I've tried the 90-second measure cooldown build. Well, right now I am playing without Convoke. I'm playing instead longer and stronger measure cooldowns. The reason why is because there is a currently 90-second trinket, which gives you primary stat, and that syncs very well with your measure cooldowns, hence why I've been playing that. I think overall sustained AoE damage of Feral Druid is looking to be incredibly good. Bolt burst and sustain AoE incredibly good. Even single target, where it previously has been a weak area, has been doing very well. So I'm quite happy with the way Pharaoh is playing right now, at least for the most part. And the changes to the spec, even though they were quite a few, I don't think they are changing your rotation at all. You're gonna be playing exactly the same thing. And yes, for the people that are still asking, a rake is still a useless button. I don't really press it in AoE until that gets to be buffed. At least for now. I believe without double rake, I think you're playing rake up to 3 targets, but again, it's PTR. I'm not really sure with the most optimal rotation for every single spec, because that gets to be changed on a weekly basis. But so far, I haven't been playing rake at all, only up to 3 targets. On 4 or more, I would just ignore it. Maybe like once on a prior target at the beginning opener, but that's about it, Just pretty much been a lot of swipes and spenders. All right, let's talk about rogues. We haven't spoken about them. Outlaw Rogue is definitely my favorite spec to play right now from all the rogue specs. Undeniably, the sustained damage of Outlaw Rogue looking to be just as good, which honestly am quite happy, because if you guys haven't seen, the physical comp metas consisting with warriors, rogues, feral druids, etc. is likely going to continue to be great in next season, and Outlaw Rogue fits within that comp perfectly well. What can you expect from the spec? Overall, I like the tier set and the way it is right now. I think they achieved a goal of theirs to maintain the nice flow of rotation of Outlaw. There are different builds right now that being incentivized. Once again, I believe Trickster right now is being played more, with Killing Spirit being mandatory, whether you play Trickster or Fatebound, which honestly, I don't mind that button. It was pretty weird before the rework. after the rework is pretty fine. I've tried different builds, including Preparation on Outlaw Rogue, um, and also the longer dice, which was, I guess, a little bit of RNG. Yeah, I think overall flow of the spec is good. There might be some button bloat at times, especially at the first couple of seconds of opener if you have every single available cooldown. But for the most part, I can't really complain. I like the way its spec is heading. I can't talk about rating much. I haven't tested Outlaw in rating, but at least Mythic Plus Outlaw gets a huge thumbs up. Alright, we spoke about Feral Druid, we spoke about Rogues. It's time to speak about the main candidate for the physical comp meta, and that's going to be Warriors. Now, for the Warriors, there's a good thoughts and a bad thoughts. I'm going to begin with the good ones. So far, Arms Warrior has impressed me the most. I think the tier set is very strong for Mythic Plus. It highlights the importance of AoE damage, especially as a Colossus, which honestly, I am a big fan of Colossus. And on top of this, the overall changes of Arms Warrior have been good so far. I think the spec is heading in the right direction. I think it's currently very strong melee contender. And for the most part, remember, you are a bearer of Battle Shout, which once again is a staple condiment inside the equation for physical meta. And even in Season 2, I think they're going to continue to be great. The only concern that I had before last season to this season was the pure single target on Colossus Arms Warrior, which now that has been addressed, but not to the extent where I want to be addressed. I could sacrifice even more AoE for more ST if that could be possible. Obviously, I'm not gonna play Ray Talents, but you know, yeah, I think Funnel is still gonna be as important answer as before. And overall speaking, the tier set incentivizes larger pools, more AoE fed into the Arms Warrior. Overall, huge W. I think one of the best specs right now. At least one of the best melee contenders currently on Season 2. And another aspect that I believe the changes were very good for them has been Assassination Rogue. Now, I am usually not a big fan of Assassination Rogue. I don't like the gameplay, etc. But they have changed a lot of issues regarding Assassination Rogue, specifically talking about pooling resources and energy starvation. Those two major issues have been commented for quite a while, and Blizzard have finally taken a step towards improving the playstyle of Assassination Rogue, which honestly right now feels a lot better compared to previous season. Now, there is still a point where on lower level keys, Assassination Rogue itself doesn't really have that nice touche mechanic where your sustained damage over time gets to be extraordinary, but for the most part, at least on a higher level of keys right now on PTR, Assassination Rogue have failed amazing. Now, there is a few more things that I want to consider, that I want to discuss here. They attempted of nerfing your major cooldowns. Both Kingsbane and Deathmark has been nerfed coming through Season 2, and overall they give you more sustained damage with it. I think that is not really an issue for the most part. Assassination Rogue was doing even great damage outside of cooldowns, so that's even better, I think, for the most part, for Assassination Rogue. I don't know about the tier set. The only reason why I haven't put you into the good tier set plus good changes is because I'm not 100% sure about your tier set. Now, some people are saying that it's not great. Other people are not big fan of it. I have a mixed opinions. Obviously, I'm waiting to see for the final tuning whether they're gonna tune it right or wrong. So far, I would say not the best tier set, but most definitely not the worst one. It's just a bit boring. Alright, since we're talking about tier sets, whether something is good or bad, we cannot continue this video without talking about the bad ones. Well, unfortunately, Havoc DH goes in that category. I think the overall changes of the spec has been pretty scarce, but the gameplay and the performance have been good. Now, I'm gonna put the performance aside and how good damage you do, and talk about specifically about your tier set, likely one of the worst ones so far across all specs, because it plays around Essence Break, which is a very weird button to press for most people, considering the fact that almost nobody enjoys playing Essence Break. Now, when it comes down to builds, this pretty much pushes you to play Failscard for the most part. Now, Drake is still currently quite undertuned, especially when it comes down to Mythic Plus. Now, Failscard is always known to have nice front low burst damage, especially during cooldowns, and the tier set just doesn't fit really the narrative. I think for the most part, I don't like the way they've decided to take upon that, and I can have a lot of feedback in regards to it. I've already raised my concerns about it earlier, but 2 months into the PTR, nothing has changed in regards to it. Very minimal changes of your rotation. For the most part, you are gonna maintain the same flow of rotation. And if I have to put the bad tier set aside and specifically talk about performance, because I know some of you don't care about anything else but how good of a damage you do, I think Havoc DH right now is one of the better melees. If you are considering only damage profile, it's looking to be very strong in terms of just pure raw output. Once again, the only concern of mine is I want to see better tier set, improved version of it. I want to see also more balance towards Eldraki versus Failscard. I'm more of a fan of Eldraki. I like to press my throw glyph inside my rotation, but I know some of you don't like that, so fair enough. That's why I want to make sure that both builds are... Alright, let's talk about now some blue boys. It's time for Enhanced Shaman. Enhanced Shaman has seen a lot of good changes coming to next season, and overall, the way that the spec plays out is actually not so bad. I think overall, I like the direction that they're heading, and keeping in mind that they did change the tier set quite recently, everything is pointing towards Enhanced to be rather a staple melee for next season. Now, when I say staple, I mean like there's been a lot of good changes and some of the bad changes still persist. Now, I am not gonna go deep into the Enhanced. I think Zortas made a great video about it. I'm gonna link it down below if you guys wanna check it out. But TODR, he is, or Me2, is quite unhappy about Doomwinds. The Doomwinds RNG inside your Enhanced Shaman can feel rather troublesome at times, especially if you are getting unlucky or, for example, get back-to-back procs in a pack and then you don't get anything for the next 5 minutes. It's most different, quite unfortunate. Your damage during cooldowns is very good. Very good to the point where your sustain is a little bit iffy if you don't get Doomwind's proc, and during Ascendance you do actually astronomical amount of damage. You still play Stormbringer for the most part. I did try both Stormbringer and Totemic. I think Totemic sucks. I've never liked Totemic, so I'm happy to continue to play Stormbringer. The final damage is still there, the prior damage is still there, although not as strong as previous seasons. There's, once again, two remaining issues with the spec. Once I spoke about the RNG and the Doomwinds, and the second one is defensive values. I think the defensive value of Enhanced Shaman, just like before, is not looking to be great. However, the off-heals capabilities of the spec can help you and, you know, save you ass from time to time. One more thing I want to discuss here is aggro issues. Every single spec that I have played so far has been good when it comes down to aggro, except Enhance. I don't know what it is about this spec. Even if I don't have Ascendance, sometimes if I get Doomwind's proc, I'll just pull aggro. They need to modify their spells the way that it generates less threat than other specs. I'm serious right now. This is the only spec where I still died from aggro, even like 10 seconds or 15 seconds into the pool, and it's very frustrating, especially when you pop all of your cooldowns, unused trinkets and potions, and then you start to slam the target, and then oppa, you get a couple of Tempest proc, and then midway through the pool you get aggro and you just die. It's very annoying. Now, unless you play with a super high damage tank like Prot Pilot right now on PTR, those issues will likely remain into the next season. Not a big fan of that, but at least the overall flow of Enhance has been great, rotationally speaking. Alright, there's a few specs left. Let's talk about them and finish this table. First, Unholy. Unholy has seen quite a few changes coming into next season. I think I overall think that they have actually quite good tier sets for Mythic Plus, because it's one of the few tier sets that allow you to have nice mass execute damage. Anything under 35% is taking a enormous amount of damage, which I'm quite happy with, unless they actually get to tune down the tier set, which is possible, because right now I believe it's the highest source of damage across Mythic Plus skill level, which is, you know, not as surprising looking at the tier set. So what they've done with Unholy in next season is they actually try to take away the burst from you. They try to make your burst less powerful and give you more sustain. Did they accomplish that? I think for the most part, kinda. Yes, your damage cooldowns are not as strong as compared to season 1, and the sustain damage just feels like, you know, slightly better. We don't have a Sims yet to compare from season 1 to season 2, but overall speaking, the rotation flow of Unholy DK is quite similar to last season. You are still playing heavy pet builds. I also tried Disease build, by the way. It's terrible. I don't recommend you to give it a try. So builds right now are still focused around summoning pets, which again, that's what the whole genre of Unholy should always be, you know, like the Necromancer, Pet Summoner, etc. So which fair enough. Defensive value, just like Frost Decay, has not been nerfed yet. You are still the tankiest DPS pick in the game, not even close. Nobody comes close to second place. Oh, you know, Frost Decay, I guess. And I think it's looking to be a solid contender once again coming into the next season, specifically with now how broken minute and a half trinkets are. It syncs perfectly well with your measured cooldowns. Also, Soul Reap does not consume Putrefy anymore, which means at the end of the pool, you don't need to hold it to save your Putrefy charges. Instead, you can send it freely, and this way, you'll be able to have slightly more para target slash, and I guess execute damage towards the target that's left, which is always a good thing. Overall, I like the direction of Unholy DK, I like the flow, and I like everything that I've done to the spec, or at least most of the things, especially now the nice mass AoE execute. And speaking about a good tier set, once again, there is one more contender coming right next to Havoc, and that's gonna be Fury Warrior. Unfortunately, I don't like the direction of the tier set so far for them. I think it kind of limits you of the amount of builds you are able to play with this. I also tested Fury Warrior quite a bit on PTR, and the main takeaway from this spec so far has been that Mountain 10 is still kind of weird to play. It's kind of weird to play with a current tier set, and I don't know if that's the intention to make you play more Slayer than anything. The target cap issues in Mass AoE still exist. You still are going to be mugged compared to most of the specs in Mass AoE, but the lower target count, you do actually quite fine. Even the ST wasn't doing that bad. Sustained damage as well was doing pretty well. You measure cooldowns are not that long apart, which again gives you a better flow of your damage profile. Every single pack you get measured cooldowns, but similar concern remain every single season, and until they are addressed, I don't see why would you play Fury instead of playing Arms Warrior on next season. Obviously, unless you absolutely hate Arms and you are a Fury one trick, which fair enough, if you are, good for you. But overall, I still think Arms to be the better spec here, at least Mythic Plus wise. All right, and last but not least, Sub Rogue. Now, unfortunately, I don't have much info here for Sub Rogue. I did play it myself so far. I don't know which builds are yet to be the best ones, but for at least from everything that I've tested, the Sub Rogue path, I guess, next season is for them to have less damage during cooldowns and more sustained damage, which if you guys have played Sub Rogue for the past couple of expansions, they've always had a high highs and lower lows, which means during cooldowns you do fantastic damage and you absolutely smoke everybody, but as soon as your blades and dances are running away, your sustained damage is pretty much equivalent to tank damage for the most part. That now they made an attempt to fix that issue where they reduce the amount of damage you do during major cooldowns, and then instead they give you a little bit more of a flatline damage profile. Did they accomplish everything they hoped for? I don't think they did, but they definitely moved some damage apart from each other. I think it's too early for me to decide whether Sub Rogue mini rework or those changes are going to lead to a better performance coming into last season, to next season. But there's one thing that I guarantee you is that you are going to be having less burst than before, and your sustained damage will be now better than before. Is that a W? Is that an L? I don't know. I prefer damage on demand rather than passive damage, because there's always going to be packs in Mythic Plus where they are super important to die fast. At least, once again, the major takeaway from this spec is that your minute and a half cooldowns can sync well with one of the most broken trinkets available to us in Mythic Plus. Is that going to be helping you? I hope so. Overall, it's too early to tell whether Sub Rogue is going to end up being good or bad, but for now, I would definitely prefer to play Outlaw Rogue until further changes are done to the sub-spec. Alright guys, that's everything so far, and my winners and losers for next patch. Hopefully all of this should have given you enough information for you to decide which one do you want to pursue yet, or which one do you have the most interest. Do keep in mind, whatever you heard today is always due to change. There's going to be at least 4 or 5 more weeks until the season comes out, and this is not a tier list. The tier list shall begin once we have every single dungeon available to us to be tested, because sometimes the meta specs are decided based on the dungeons themselves, whether they are big ones or small ones. whether you play consistently big AoE packs or more smaller size packs between 4 and 7 mobs. Is it heavy single target incentivized, for example? Are there any important mobs where the funnel can happen and therefore some of those picks are going to be important? Or, for example, is it very heavy on defensives? Are there a lot of hard trash packs or bosses which require to have a lot of mitigation? I don't know. We're going to find out once they get completely reworked. Until then, tier list is going to be still in the waiting room and getting baked until further notice. I would assume by next Sunday, we should already be ready unless Blizzard delays the changes. We shall see. Thank you for watching the video once again, and the ranged version should be coming out tomorrow. Well, yeah, tomorrow, pretty much 24 hours from this video, give or take. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a good one once again. Make sure to follow the channel so you don't miss anything important coming into the future patches. Bye for now.